So the second half of chapter 7 is on what's called factoring. So, it's basically doing what we did the first part backwards. And there's 4 different types of factoring. 3 of them, in my opinion, are fairly straightforward once you kind of get used to it. The 4th kind is definitely like more difficult, but 3 out of 4, that's 75%, that's a C, are definitely like very doable. Okay, so just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. This is what, we did the first part of chapter 7. We distributed everything out. And then we combined these 2 things in the middle. And that was our answer. Okay, well now, this is the problem. And the 2 parentheses, the 2 binomials, are the answer. So we got to figure out how to work backwards. Okay, and so if you notice, like, the answer is just x squared, and then it's like, 2x minus 15. But if you compare it to this, the b and the c are just like the 2 and the negative 15, or the minus 15. So all the problems today will start with no number in the front, and that makes things a lot easier. Okay, so I kind of do this step-like process. I'm going to start a new screen. There is like a step that you won't see on the assignment today, but we always want to look for what's in common. And that won't show up for a day or 2, but I want it to be there so when it does happen, we can kind of address it. So what's in common? We need to check, is there something in common? And if there is, we want to take it out like we did in section 4. Step 2, what are the signs in my answer? And this is kind of I don't know, some teachers don't teach it this way, some do. I think it's beneficial. So we could have a problem, and I'm just making up numbers. I'm not gonna solve them. I'm gonna actually make it so that it really couldn't be solved in some cases. So if I just picked 2 and 10, no particular reason why. But I did, both of them are positive. I have a negative, then a positive then a negative, both of them negative. Okay? And so if we were going to factor these, the answer would be 2 sets of parentheses. Again, I'm not going to. This is just an illustration to figure out in my answer, am I going to have plus plus? Am I going to have minus minus? Am I going to have a plus then minus? Am I going to have minus then? What am I going to do? Okay. And so the first thing you start with is the 10, the last number. Okay. So when the last number is positive, the signs in the answer are the same. They're either both positive or they're both negative. Okay, how do you know which one to use? Look at the other sign. So if the last sign's positive and then the other sign's positive, both positive. If the other sign's negative, both negative. Okay, doesn't matter which number's bigger. anything like that. Just if the last one's positive, the signs are the same because a negative times a negative makes a positive. So that's why that works. Okay. If the last sign is negative, the signs are different. Or I say one of each. And it does not matter which one goes first. I always just write plus and then negative, just to be consistent. But it truly does not matter. You don't even need to look at the other sign. You know, the other sign comes into play later, but not to determine what the signs are going to be. Okay, so last term positive means the signs are the same. Last term negative means the signs are different. When they're the same, how do you know which one to use? Look at the other number. Okay, so that's a big step. All right. So after, you kind of, let's look at a problem or two now. Okay, so, is there something in common? There's not going to be in any of the problems today, so don't even worry about it. So then what are the signs going to be? The last term's positive. That means the signs are the same. The 7 is positive. So that means put both of them positive. And then on all the problems today, how do I get x squared? It's just x times x. Okay, so in all of our work that we're going to do, the variable will be in those first spots. We'll eventually get to the point where there's numbers in the front of the x, but so, if it was like a 6, well, what time, then 3x and 2x, okay, 3 times 2 is 6. The x is still going to be there. All right, so here's the question that there's two different questions that you could ask today. So when the last term is positive, and I connect that if there's an addition sign there, this goes back to that worksheet you did the other day. What times what is 12 that adds up to 7? So it's what times what is this number that adds up to the middle number? So obviously the 12 and the 7 will change on every problem with different numbers. So it's what times what is this last number that adds up to the middle number? So we could say, well, 12 times 1 makes 12, not 7. 6 times 2 is 12, doesn't add up to 7. 4 times 3 is 12, that does add up to 7. So then we can, because they're both positive, it doesn't matter the order. So I put 4 and 3. I typically put the bigger number first. I think the book does most of the time also. But if you put x plus 3 and then x plus 4, it means the same thing. You're good. Okay, so if you check an answer and you had x plus 3, x plus 4, and the book had the other way around, you're fine. Okay. All right, so nothing's in common. When there's no number in the front, there's not going to be anything in common. What are the signs? Okay, the last term's positive. Oh, but that one's negative, so negative, negative. Okay, and then x and x. I suppose I should use some different letters because the book will. So because the last term's positive, what times what is 18? That adds up to 9. Doesn't matter that it's negative 9. Don't worry about it. What times what is 18? That adds up to 9. Well, 18 times 1, no, that doesn't work. 9 times 2, no, that doesn't work. 6 times 3, that works. Because they're both the same, put it in. 6 and 3. Okay, again, if you had x minus 3, x minus 6, you're good. Okay, so when that last one's positive or addition, you're going to ask what times what is the last number that adds up to the middle number. All right, so what where both of them were positive, we did both of them with a negative and then a positive. If the last one, so this one we kind of had when I was doing the signs, but so no number in the front, so nothing's in common. Oh, last term's negative, so I have one positive, one negative. Or one negative, one positive. The order doesn't matter. Okay. All right, so last term's negative. What times what is negative 10? That, and I'm going to put like this, combines to equal 2. Okay, so the negative ones are a little bit harder because, well, what times what is 10? Well, 10 times 1. Well, but that's positive 10, so I have to have negative 10 and positive 1, or I have to have positive 1, or positive 10 and negative 1. Like there's two combinations of each like number. Well, neither of those make 2. So I have negative 5. Oh, I messed up. I should have put 3. Negative 5 times 2, or positive 5 times negative 2. So technically none of them work because I was thinking I was going to use 5 and 2 when I wrote the 2. I meant to, oops, that's not right either. Meant to put a 3. Sorry about that. Okay, so which one of these combines to make positive 3? That one does. So I need to make sure that the 5 is positive, so the 5 has to go here, and then the 2 is negative, so it has to go there. Now, if you put x minus 2 and then x plus 5, that's fine, but not x plus 2 and x minus 5. That will give you the wrong answer. So we've got to be a little bit more careful when we put the numbers in the problem when the last one's negative. Okay, so oops, let's do minus. Okay, so nothing in the front, so nothing's in common. Last term's negative, so one positive, one negative. Put my x's in there. Okay, what times what is negative 12? Negative 12 times 1. Negative 1 times 12, and neither of those work. 6 times negative 2, negative 6, positive 2. That one gives me negative 4 when I combine them. So the 6 is negative and the 2 is positive. Okay. So there's an example of each like setup in terms of the number or the signs. Okay, we did a positive and then a negative. We did a negative and a negative. So there's no other way, and numbers can obviously be different. But in terms of the signs, there's nothing else that can happen. All right, then at the very end of your problems, you're going to have some to solve, which we've already done before. So now, but it was already factored for us. Okay, so on these, like they have to be equal 0 in order for you to start the problem. Okay, so you can't have the 7 over there. So on some of them, it'll already be set up for you. On others, you'll need to make it equal 0. Okay, so last term is negative, the 15, so that means 1 plus and 1 minus. Okay, what times what is 15? Negative 15 and 1, 15 and negative 1, that doesn't make 2. 5 and negative 3, negative 5, positive 3. That one does. So the 5 is negative, the 3 is positive, and then we do our solving. Oops. Okay, so the last 1, 2, 3, 4 problems will be solving. And of the first couple, at least 2, maybe 3, will be set up like this. And then the other ones you'll have to go back a step and then add or subtract the number over to make it equal 0. So don't start factoring and solving until you have it equal 0. All right, so factoring it's more difficult than what we were doing, but I think with some practice, it's something that's not very difficult. 3 out of the 4, I think with practice, you guys can get. The last one is definitely harder, and we'll go over that slower than we do the other ones. So, okay, hopefully you're doing good. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.